The slaughterhouse ship drifted in the cold silence of space. From the outside it looked like a broken moon, dark and lifeless. But inside it was alive. Alive with screams, machines, and death. Deep in the belly of the ship, a woman crouched in the corner of a steel cell. Her skin was not human, pale, almost silver, with faint, glowing lines running across her arms. Her eyes were too large, too sharp, but they carried something familiar. Fear. She had been here for days, maybe weeks. Time had no meaning anymore. All she knew was the sound of the machines, the cutting, the burning, the endless cries of others who entered but never returned. This place was not a prison. It was something worse. It was a factory of death. Then the heavy doors hissed open. 2 tall alien guards dragged a broken body and threw it into the cell. The sound echoed like thunder against the metal walls. The woman gasped. It was not another alien, it was a human. His armor was cracked, covered in blood and dust. His breathing was heavy, ragged, but he was alive. A man, maybe a soldier, scarred but still holding on to life. The guards laughed in their strange, clicking tongue and slammed the door shut. For a long moment, there was only silence. The woman stared at him. A human, here in this place of slaughter. She had heard of them, had even seen them once long ago during the war. But never this close, and never like this, the man stirred. His eyes opened slowly. Pain burned in them, but also fire, the fire of survival. He looked around, confused, then saw her. His hand twitched, reaching for a weapon he no longer had. The woman's lips trembled. She leaned closer, whispering, almost begging. "Use me, hurt me, do anything, but don't leave me here." Her voice cracked. She pressed her forehead against the cold floor. "Please, I cannot die in this place, not like the others." The man blinked, struggling to rise. Every movement seemed to tear his body apart, but he pushed himself up against the wall. His voice was rough, low, almost broken. "What is this place?" The woman swallowed hard. She shook her head. "A slaughterhouse. They take people, they cut. They build things from us, weapons, machines. We are parts." Her body shivered as she spoke, her hands wrapping around her knees. The man listened, his jaw tightening. He tried to stand, his legs weak, but his eyes stayed sharp. He was a soldier. She could see it. She could feel it in the way he looked at her, not with pity, but with calculation. "Why ask me for help?" he asked finally. "You don't even know me." Her eyes glistened. "Because you are human. And humans fight. I've seen it. Even when there is no chance, you fight." The man looked at her in silence. The cell vibrated faintly with the thrum of the ship's engines. Somewhere far down the corridor, something screamed, something alive, then suddenly cut short. The woman flinched. Her hands covered her ears, but the sound lingered inside her skull. Tears slipped from her eyes. "I don't want to be next," she whispered. "I don't want to be turned into a weapon." The man's gaze lingered on her. He could see the truth in her trembling body, in her desperate words. She was not lying. This place was a nightmare. He clenched his fists. His body hurt, his blood dripped, but his mind refused to break. Slowly he leaned closer to her. "Then you better tell me everything you know," he said. "If we're getting out of here, I need to understand what we're facing." Her eyes widened. She nodded quickly, hope lighting up in her face like a dying flame suddenly fed by air. "Yes. Yes, I can help. I know the halls, the guards, the paths. I've watched, listened. I can guide you." The man gave a bitter smile, though his face remained hard. "And why should I trust you?" The woman froze. Her lips parted, but no words came at first. Then in a broken whisper she said, "Because I have no one else, and neither do you." The silence returned, heavier than before. The 2 prisoners sat in the cold steel cell, surrounded by shadows and echoes of death. Yet in that silence something had changed. The man was no longer just a broken soldier thrown into the slaughterhouse. And the woman was no longer just another alien victim waiting for her turn. Now they were something more. They were 2 souls in a place built for death, and together they might just have a chance to tear it apart. The lights flickered above them. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed outside the cell. Closer, closer. The woman's breath quickened. The man's hand gripped the broken edge of his armor like a weapon. The doors hissed again, and their nightmare was only beginning. The cell door opened, and light spilled inside. The guards stomped in, tall, insect-like creatures with sharp legs and glowing eyes. Their armor clinked like knives scraping stone. They pointed at the human and barked orders in their clicking language. The human soldier did not move. His body was weak, but his eyes burned with quiet defiance. The guards grew angry, one of them striking him across the face with the butt of its weapon. Blood smeared his cheek, but he didn't cry out. He only stared at them with cold silence. The alien woman trembled, pressing herself into the corner. She knew what would happen next. The guards dragged their victims down the endless corridor, and those victims never returned. She had heard their screams fade into silence one by one. But this human was different. He didn't beg. He didn't collapse. Even wounded, he pushed against their grip, forcing them to shove harder. She watched with wide eyes, realizing something she had nearly forgotten. Humans did not break easily. The guards finally shoved him back to the ground, laughing in their twisted tongue. They left, locking the door again. The human spat blood, then leaned against the wall. His breaths came rough and heavy, but his spirit seemed untouched. The woman dared to whisper, "They will come back, and when they do, they will take you to the machines." The man turned his head slightly toward her. "Machines?" Her voice shook. "They cut us apart. They take pieces of us, bones, blood, even memories. They feed it into their forges. They build living weapons from us." Her hands clutched her arms tightly as if protecting herself from invisible blades. That is what this place is. Not prison, not war camp, slaughterhouse. The man's eyes narrowed. His mind raced even through pain. A slaughterhouse for living beings, weapons made from flesh. He had seen horrors in war, but this was something new, something darker. "And you?" he asked. "Why are you here?" She lowered her gaze. Shame filled her voice. "My people once served them. We thought we were allies. But when we lost our worth, they turned on us. Now I am only a resource, just like you." The man studied her. She was fragile, trembling, her voice cracked with fear. Yet there was something in her words, something useful. She had been here longer. She knew more. "Do you know the way out?" he asked at last. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. "You want to escape?" He gave a bitter smile. "You don't?" She hesitated. Hope and fear wrestled inside her. I know paths. I know where the guards change, where the machines rest. I have listened. I have watched." But her words caught in her throat. "No one has ever made it out. No one." The man leaned closer, his voice low and steady. "Then maybe we'll be the first." Her chest rose and fell quickly like a trapped bird. She searched his face for doubt, for weakness, but she found none. Even broken, even bleeding, the human's resolve was harder than steel. But deep in her heart, she wondered, was he brave? Or simply mad? A distant scream echoed through the halls. It rose high, then cut off suddenly, replaced by the humming of machines. The woman shuddered. The human's jaw tightened. He whispered almost to himself, "Not me, not today." She moved closer, desperate to hold on to this strange fire he carried. "If you try to fight them, you will die. If you run, you will die. But if we work together," her voice lowered, "maybe we have a chance." The human turned his head fully toward her now. His eyes searched hers. "And why should I trust you?" Her throat tightened. She remembered the faces of her people who betrayed humans long ago. She remembered the burning cities, the broken treaties. What right did she have to ask for his trust? Finally, she whispered the truth. "Because I am afraid, and fear makes me honest." For a long moment, silence hung heavy between them. The dim light flickered overhead, shadows stretching across the steel walls. Then the man nodded once. "Fine, we do this together. But if you lie to me," his voice was sharp, deadly, "I will end you before they do." The woman lowered her head, accepting the threat. "Then I will not lie." Outside the cell, the sound of boots echoed again. The guards were returning. The woman's pulse raced. The human stood, swaying slightly, but on his feet. He pressed against the wall, waiting like a predator ready to strike. The door hissed open. Light poured in. The guards stepped forward, their weapons raised, and in that moment, the human moved. Not like a prisoner, not like prey, but like a fighter who had nothing left to lose. The woman gasped. For the first time since she was captured, she felt something more than fear. She felt hope. The guards hit the floor hard. One had its throat crushed by the human's bare hands, the other lay still with its skull broken against the steel wall. The human soldier stood over them, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with the same fire as before. The alien woman stared at him in shock. She had seen humans fight during the war, but never like this, wounded, bleeding, and still strong enough to kill 2 guards with nothing but will and fury. He wiped the blood from his knuckles and looked at her. "We're leaving now!" Her heart jumped. She scrambled to her feet, nodding quickly. She had dreamed of this moment. But now that it was here, it felt unreal. The cell door was open, the hallway beyond dim and endless. The human crouched, tearing a weapon from one of the guards' hands. The alien gun hissed in his grip, alive with strange energy. He didn't understand the controls, but he aimed it anyway. The woman whispered, "I know the paths. Follow me, but you must trust me." The man's jaw tightened. He didn't lower the weapon. "I'll follow. But trust? That's earned." She swallowed hard and nodded. Then, without another word, she led him into the corridor. The hallway stretched in both directions, lined with flickering lights. Strange doors hummed softly, hiding horrors behind them. The air carried the metallic tang of blood and burned flesh. The woman kept her steps quiet, guiding him with gestures more than words. "This way," she whispered. The guards changed at the top of the cycle. "We have a small window." The human followed, his weapon ready. Every sound, every shadow made his nerves tighten. He had been in enemy bases before, but never in a place like this, where the walls themselves seemed to breathe with death. They passed a chamber where screams leaked through the door. The woman froze, her face pale. The human glanced inside. Through a small window, he saw creatures strapped to tables, their skin peeled open, wires pushed into their nerves, machines carved into them while they still lived. He looked away, rage burning inside him. "Monsters," he muttered. The woman's voice trembled. "This is why I begged you. Better death than that." For a moment he almost felt pity, but pity was dangerous. He forced it down and focused. Survival first. They moved again, weaving through the halls. Twice they hid behind pipes as patrols marched past. The human studied the woman. She knew when to stop, when to move, which halls to avoid. She wasn't lying about listening and watching, but something else bothered him. She avoided certain paths too quickly, too carefully, as if she wasn't just trying to escape. She was trying to keep him away from something. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked with alien runes. The woman pressed her hand to a panel. It scanned her skin, then clicked open. The human frowned. "You said you were a prisoner. How do you know their systems?" Her voice was low. "I told you. My people once served them. I learned things. Enough to survive. Enough to escape." He studied her, suspicion sharp in his eyes. But the sound of footsteps behind them forced his choice. He shoved her through the door, weapon raised. Inside was a maintenance tunnel, dark, narrow, filled with pipes that dripped strange liquid. The hum of the slaughterhouse was louder here, the sound of machines grinding flesh into something unholy. They crouched low, moving quickly through the tunnel. The human's mind raced. She was useful, she knew the paths, the systems. But could he trust her not to lead him into a trap? The woman glanced back at him, her face pale in the shadows. She could feel his suspicion pressing on her like a weight. She wanted to speak, to explain, but she knew words meant nothing to him. Only actions mattered. A sudden alarm blared. Red lights flashed, filling the tunnel with blood-colored glow. "They know," she whispered. "The guards will flood every passage." The human's grip on the weapon tightened. Then we moved faster. They crawled through a vent that opened into another chamber. This one was worse than before. Dozens of cages lined the walls, filled with alien prisoners. Some were barely alive. Others pressed against the bars, whispering as the pair passed. The whispers chilled the human's spine. She lies. Don't follow her." He froze, staring at them. The woman kept moving, refusing to look at the prisoners. The human's voice was sharp. "What are they talking about?" She stopped, her shoulders stiff. Slowly she turned, her eyes wet with something between guilt and anger. "They hate me because I survived. Because I bargained for scraps of mercy. I did what I had to do." The man's gaze was hard. The whispers still echoed in his head. But before he could speak, heavy footsteps thundered down the hall. Guards were coming. The woman reached out, grabbing his arm. "Decide later. Live now." He stared at her hand on his arm. For a brief second, the fire in his eyes softened. Then he pulled free, raising the weapon toward the approaching sound. Together, they slipped into another tunnel just as the guards arrived. Energy blasts lit the chamber behind them, prisoners screaming as stray shots tore cages apart. The human didn't look back. Neither did she. They ran deeper into the slaughterhouse. Their uneasy alliance forged in fire and suspicion. And though they moved side by side, Both knew a single truth. Surviving this place might depend on trust. But trust was the most dangerous weapon of all. The tunnel spat them out into a vast chamber. The ceiling rose high above, lost in darkness, while the floor below stretched into rows upon rows of cages. The air stank of oil, blood, and burned metal. The human froze for a moment, scanning the scene. Hundreds of prisoners were trapped inside, different species, all broken, all afraid. Their eyes followed him and the alien woman, glowing faintly in the dim light. One prisoner, a skeletal creature with too many eyes, pressed its face against the bars and hissed, "Don't follow her. She leads you to the core, to the furnace." The human's grip on his stolen weapon tightened. He looked at the woman. "What furnace?" Her face hardened. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned sharply. "This way. If we stay here, we die." Suspicion gnawed at him, but footsteps echoed in the distance, guards moving fast. He had no time to question further. He followed. They weaved through shadows, slipping between the cages. Prisoners whispered as they passed. Some begged for release. Some cursed the woman in strange tongues. Some only stared with hollow eyes, too broken to speak. The human felt the weight of those stares. They burned into him as if accusing him for still being free, for still fighting. "Why don't you let them out?" he whispered harshly. Her eyes darted to the nearest cage, then away. "We can't. Alarms would trigger. We'd be caught in seconds." His jaw clenched. He wanted to help them. But deep inside, he knew she was right. If he tried, they'd both die before taking 3 steps. Still, the guilt bit into him as they moved deeper. Suddenly, a shrill alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across the chamber. The doors at both ends slammed open and guards poured in, tall, insect-like soldiers, weapons glowing with energy. The woman gasped. "They found us!" The human cursed under his breath, raising the alien rifle. The first blast roared from its barrel, tearing through a guard's chest. The recoil burned his arms, but he kept firing. Another fell, shrieking as smoke poured from its wounds. The woman dragged him toward a side tunnel. "Move faster!" They sprinted, blasts cutting the air around them. One shot grazed the human's arm, searing his flesh. He staggered, teeth gritted against the pain, but kept running. The tunnel narrowed, pipes hissing steam. Guards chased close behind. The woman led him down a sharp turn, then another. She seemed to know every twist, every junction. Too well, he thought. She knew too much. "Where are you taking us?" he barked. "To safety." She snapped back, her voice sharp with fear. "Or to a trap," he growled. Before she could reply, a heavy clang shook the tunnel. A massive steel gate dropped behind them, sealing off the pursuers. The woman pressed her hand to a panel, her silver skin glowing faintly against it. The gate locked. The human stared at her. "How do you keep doing that?" "You said you were a prisoner." Her eyes darted away. "I was, but I still carry their marks. They use my kind to unlock their machines." The words stung like lies, but there was no time to press. More footsteps echoed ahead. The tunnel opened into a chamber filled with humming machines. Long conveyor belts carried pieces of bodies, arms, organs, bones, into great furnaces that roared with fire. The smell was unbearable. The human stomach turned. "God!" The woman's face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. She pointed. "There. Service ladders. They lead up to the vents." They ran. Guards appeared at the far end, weapons blazing. The human fired back, each shot shaking his body. One guard fell, then another, but more came. The woman climbed the ladder first, scrambling fast. The human covered her, firing until the weapon's energy sputtered and died. He tossed it aside and leapt onto the ladder, climbing after her as blasts scorched the metal around him. They reached the vent, pulling themselves inside just as another explosion shook the chamber. The vent was narrow, crawling space only. The human pushed forward, his body aching, his breath heavy. Behind him, the woman whispered, "We're close." "Just a little further." "Close to what?" he demanded. She hesitated. "To the control sector. If we reach it, we can shut systems down, maybe even open the outer doors." He narrowed his eyes in the dark. Control sector, of course. That's where she had been leading him all along. The vent shook violently. Guards were trying to blast their way inside. The woman crawled faster, her voice trembling. "Please trust me. Just this once." The human's heart pounded. The prisoner's whispers echoed in his head. "She lies. She leads you to the core, but what choice did he have? Go back meant death. Forward meant maybe survival." Or maybe betrayal. He clenched his jaw and crawled faster. At last they reached a grate. The woman pushed it open, dropping into a dim corridor lined with glowing wires. The human followed, landing hard on the steel floor. The hum of the ship was louder here, like a giant heartbeat pulsing through the walls. The woman turned to him, her face pale but determined. "We're almost there. Just beyond this hall." The human stared at her, his fists tightening. "Then this is where I find out," he said coldly, "whether you're leading me to freedom or to my death." The corridor stretched before them, endless and waiting, and in that moment trust was no longer a choice. It was the only weapon they had left. The corridor stretched like a throat of steel, humming with power. Dim lights pulsed along the walls, bathing the two fugitives in a dull, sickly glow. Every step echoed, heavy with the weight of danger and suspicion. The human soldier walked close behind the alien woman, his fists tight, his body ready to strike. His eyes never left her back. He had followed her through tunnels, past guards, through fire and blood. But the whispers of the prisoner still scratched inside his head. "She lies. She leads you to the core." At the far end of the corridor, a wide hatch glowed faintly. The woman slowed, her breathing shallow. Her hand trembled as she reached toward the panel. "Wait," the human snapped. She froze, her palm inches from the scanner. Slowly she turned. Her large eyes shimmered with fear. And something else. Guilt. "You've been leading me here since the start," the soldier said coldly. His voice was sharp, like a blade ready to cut. "Tell me now, what's behind that door?" Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time she looked smaller, fragile, cornered. The human stepped closer, his shadow looming over her. "If you don't speak, I'll find out myself. But you won't like what happens after." Her throat tightened. Finally she whispered, "The core, the control center of this ship." He narrowed his eyes. "And why do you want me to come here? Why drag me through hell for this?" Her voice shook. "Because only a human can unlock it." The soldier froze, his jaw clenched. "What do you mean?" The woman lowered her gaze. Shame weighed her shoulders down like chains. "During the war, my people helped build these slaughterhouses. We gave the Empire our knowledge, our designs. But the humans were their greatest enemies. The Empire feared you, so they made sure that no core could ever be opened without human blood." Her words cut like knives. The soldier's breath grew heavier. "You betrayed us," he said slowly, his voice full of venom. She flinched. "Yes, my people made weapons that destroyed your cities. I was part of it. I believed the Empire would protect us, reward us. But when we were no longer useful, they turned us into fuel. Just like everyone else." Her eyes lifted to his, glistening with tears. "I am no ally. I am no hero. I am just a prisoner now. And I need you. Because you are the only one who can open the core and give us even a chance to escape." The corridor seemed colder. The hum of the ship grew louder, like the heartbeat of some ancient beast. The soldier's fist shook. He wanted to strike her, to end her life for the betrayal of his people. But at the same time, her trembling voice, her broken confession, rooted him in place. "Why should I help you?" He spat, her voice cracked. "Because if you don't, we both die here. You, me, everyone in these cages. They will grind us all into pieces. At least this way we can fight back." For a long moment, silence hung heavy. The soldier stared at her, rage battling reason inside his chest. His hand tightened around the grip of his stolen weapon. Then, with a bitter smile, he shook his head. "You expect forgiveness." She shook her head violently, tears spilling now. "No, never forgiveness. Only survival. Use me, hate me, but don't leave me here." The words echoed, the same desperate plea she had whispered when he first awoke in the cell. And now, he finally understood. The hatch behind her hissed softly, waiting to be opened. The soldier stepped closer, his face inches from hers. His voice was low, deadly calm. "If this is a trick, if you're lying, your death will be slow." She swallowed hard and nodded. "I know." He brushed past her and pressed his bloodied hand to the scanner. The panel lit up instantly, glowing red, then green. A deep rumble shook the corridor as the hatch unlocked. The doors slid open, revealing the core chamber. It was vast, circular, with a massive machine at its heart, an engine of flesh and steel. Veins of glowing energy pulsed through walls made of bone and metal. Human and alien remains were fused into the structure, their faces frozen in eternal screams. The ship itself was alive, fed by the slaughter. The soldier's stomach twisted. God, what have they done? The woman's face was pale, her eyes wide with horror and shame. This is why I need you. If you bleed into the console, it will obey. We can shut it down. We can stop the cycle. He turned to her slowly. Or we can unleash something worse. She had no answer. Her lips trembled, but no words came. The chamber pulsed with power, waiting for his decision. The soldier stood at the edge, staring at the grotesque core. The weight of countless lives pressed on his shoulders. Behind him, the woman whispered, "Please, do not leave me alone in this place." Her words shook, fragile and desperate, but they carried a truth he could not ignore. He stepped forward, toward the console, his blood dripping from torn knuckles. And with each step, the question burned brighter. Was she his ally in survival, or the architect of his death? The core chamber pulsed like a living heart. Red light flickered from the walls of bone and steel, shadows crawling across the floor. The air vibrated with the hum of the monstrous engine, and the smell of burning flesh lingered like smoke. The human soldier stood at the console, his blood dripping slowly from his torn knuckles. Every drop sent a faint ripple of light through the machine as if it hungered for him. Behind him, the alien woman trembled, her silver skin glowing faintly in the sick light. "Do it," she whispered. "Touch the console. Let your blood in. Only then will it obey." The soldier didn't move. His hand hovered above the glowing panel, but his eyes were locked on her. "Why should I believe you?" he asked, his voice low, heavy with suspicion. Her breath caught. "Because if you don't, we die here. And if you do, maybe we don't." "Maybe," he said coldly. His eyes narrowed. "Or maybe this is the moment you betray me." Her lips trembled. She stepped closer, but his weapon rose instantly, aimed at her chest. The warning was clear. "Stop right there," he growled. The chamber shuddered as alarms blared overhead. A harsh metallic voice echoed in the alien tongue, summoning guards. Heavy footsteps thundered in the corridors outside. Time was running out. The woman's voice cracked with desperation. "You don't have a choice. If you fight them here, you will die. If you run, they will hunt you down. This is the only way." The soldier's jaw tightened. He looked at the console again, then back at her. His instincts screamed not to trust her. She had admitted her betrayal. She had confessed her people's crimes. She had led him straight into the heart of this nightmare. And yet, her eyes held no trick now, only fear. Real fear. The doors at the far end burst open. Guards stormed in, their insectoid bodies gleaming under the red light, weapons raised. "Decide now," she cried. The soldier cursed under his breath. Then with a snarl he slammed his bloody palm onto the console. The core came alive. Light burst through the chamber, veins of glowing energy racing along the walls. The machine roared like a beast awakened, and the guards froze, screeching in confusion. The console pulsed beneath his hand, drinking his blood. Strange symbols flared across the panel, shifting into shapes he almost understood. A deep voice echoed in the chamber, not words but commands waiting for his will. The soldier's eyes widened. The ship recognized him. It was his now. The woman gasped, awe and terror in her voice. "It works. You control it." The guards recovered from their shock and opened fire. Blasts of energy tore through the air. The soldier ripped his hand from the console and grabbed the weapon at his side. He fired back, the rifle howling as guards fell one by one. But there were too many. "Use the console," the woman screamed. "Command it!" The soldier spun, slamming his hand onto the panel again. This time he didn't hesitate. He thought of fire, of destruction, of tearing his enemies apart. The chamber obeyed. Spikes of bone erupted from the walls, impaling guards where they stood. The floor split open, swallowing others into burning pits. The ship itself screamed, alive and furious. The woman fell to her knees, shielding her face from the storm. You're doing it!" The soldier roared with fury, his blood fueling the machine, his will bending it to rage. In moments the guards were gone, their bodies broken, their screams silenced. Silence fell heavy. The chamber pulsed slowly, glowing with power. The soldier staggered back, his chest heaving, his hand slick with blood. The woman rose slowly, staring at him in awe. "You've done what no one else could. You've made the slaughterhouse obey." He turned on her, weapon raised again. "And now you tell me the truth. Why do you really need this ship?" Her lips parted, trembling. "Because this ship is not only a prison, it is a factory. Hundreds more like it drift across the stars. If we destroy this one, maybe we can stop the chain. Maybe we can free others, his eyes narrowed. Or maybe you just want control for yourself. Her face twisted in pain. No, I swear it. I don't want power. I want freedom. For me, for all of us. He studied her in silence, the weapon steady. The chamber hummed, waiting for his decision. Finally, he lowered the gun just slightly. I don't trust you. Not yet, but we fight together, until we're out. Her eyes filled with relief. She nodded quickly. Yes, together. But deep in his heart, the soldier knew the truth. Trust was not friendship. Trust was survival. And as the slaughterhouse ship groaned and shifted around them, as alarms blared louder and more guards gathered outside, he understood one thing clearly. This alliance would either save them both, or end with blood. The slaughterhouse ship groaned like a dying beast. The walls shook, alarms screamed, and red light pulsed across every surface. The human soldier stood at the core, his blood still dripping onto the console. The alien woman hovered near him, her chest rising and falling quickly, her eyes darting to the doors. They both knew the silence wouldn't last, and then it ended. The far doors slammed open and an army of guards poured inside. Their insectoid bodies gleamed in the crimson glow, weapons charged with fire. The chamber thundered with the sound of claws striking metal. The soldier raised his rifle, but the woman grabbed his arm. There are too many. Use the ship! He slammed his hand onto the console again. The core pulsed, drinking his blood. He thought of weapons, of destruction, of tearing the guards apart. The ship obeyed. Walls split open, spraying spikes of bone and streams of molten fire. Guards screamed as they were cut down. But for every one that fell, more entered. The woman's voice trembled. They will not stop. As long as the core breathes, they will keep coming. The soldier snarled, firing his weapon into the horde. Then we end the core, her eyes widened. If the core dies, the ship dies with it. It will collapse. Then we collapse with it, he spat, blasting another guard. Better that than becoming parts for their machines. The chamber shook violently, sparks raining from the ceiling. The soldier fought like a storm. Every shot a promise of vengeance. But his body was failing. His wounds burned, his blood poured. His strength would not last. The woman saw it. She felt the truth stab her heart. He could not survive this alone. And maybe, neither could she. Her gaze turned to the console. The veins of light pulsed, hungry, waiting for more blood. She understood now. It did not just answer to humans. It answered to sacrifice. She stepped forward. The soldier saw her move. What are you doing? He shouted, firing another blast into the crowd. Her voice shook, but her eyes burned with a strange peace. What I should have done long ago. My people built this nightmare. Let me end it. Before he could stop her, she pressed both her hands onto the console. Her silver skin glowed, her veins flaring with light. The machine screamed as if alive, as if resisting. Energy tore through her body and she cried out. But she did not pull away. The soldier's eyes widened. Stop, you'll kill yourself. She met his gaze, her face pale but steady. Use me. Hate me, hurt me. But don't leave me here. Her words cut through him like a blade. The same plea she had whispered in the cell. The same desperation, now spoken not in fear but in acceptance. The core roared. Light exploded outward, ripping through the chamber. Guards were torn apart by energy waves, their bodies shredded into ash. The walls split open, the ceiling cracked, flames pouring in. The whole ship screamed like a dying god. The woman collapsed against the console, her body shaking. The soldier caught her before she fell completely. Her eyes were dim now, her breath shallow. You fool, he whispered, holding her. You didn't have to. Her trembling hand touched his cheek. Yes, I did. I was part of their war. Part of their crime, but now I can be more than that. Her lips curled into a faint, broken smile. I can be free. And with those words, her body went still. The soldier's chest tightened. He held her as the core behind them split apart, fire and light devouring the chamber. The slaughterhouse was dying, and so was she. He carried her to the nearest hatch, stumbling through smoke and fire. Explosions shook the halls as he ran, alarms screaming, metal tearing apart. The ship was collapsing into itself, breaking apart in space. Finally, he reached the hangar. A single pod remained, half broken, its engines flickering weakly. He forced the hatch open, dragging her inside. He strapped her body down gently as if she could still feel, then collapsed into the pilot's seat. The pod roared to life, launching into the void just as the slaughterhouse imploded. Behind him, the massive ship folded in on itself, burning into fragments, silenced forever. The soldier sat in the pod, his hands trembling, his body broken. Across from him, the woman's face was calm now, peaceful in death. For a long time, he said nothing. The stars drifted outside the cracked glass, silent witnesses to the end of the slaughterhouse. Finally, he whispered, his voice hoarse but steady. "Use me, hurt me, but don't leave me. That's what you asked." He lowered his head. "I didn't leave you, and I won't forget." His hand tightened on the controls. The pod drifted into the dark, carrying a lone human survivor and the memory of an alien who gave everything to destroy the Empire's machine. And in that silence, the soldier made a vow. The slaughterhouse was only one. Many more still floated in the void, still devouring lives. He would burn them all, one by one,